Hello everyone, and today I'm going to be making a hunt trait tier list, in my opinion. As you can see, just by looking at this, it does probably look somewhat controversial, but I assure you that I have good reasons for this, and, this is also my opinion. I could see all of these traits being very strong at any given point, but just for my playstyle and how, I generally pick my traits and what I run in the problems I run into most in Hunt. So first here, I'm going to be starting with my S tier choices, which I think all of these traits are amazing, even if I don't always take them. Starting off here with Lightfoot, hands down, I think that this perk is probably the best one in the entire game. If you take into account it's how often you're able to take advantage of it, how many point or trait points it costs, and it is just such a versatile trait, letting you, be able to bunny hop, and basically move silently and be able to climb ladders and vault silently is just such a powerful thing, and it's just so strong for any build that you're doing. And I know that I've won many games because of this. Won many more games than having physician or doctor, I can assure you that. And it is just such an absolutely amazing perk. Moving on to the second one here, we have oh boy. The one that lets you fire bolt action rifles quicker. I do not remember what Iron Sharpshooter, that's it. Very strong. It is always good if you're running the Vetterli Labelle or Mosin. I think those are the only guns that it applies to off the top of my head. Might be wrong on that. There's probably another one that I'm forgetting about, but I just think that it's very strong because it brings your rate of fire on already pretty fast firing weapons, especially the Vetterli. It just lets you be able to chuck bullets as if you're almost kind of like levering with a Winfield. It's just amazing. Not that it's actually that fast, of course. Moving on to my third S tier choice is Iron Repeater. This is a must for a Winfield build. And I actually just realized that I do not think levering is on this tier list. Well, I would put levering right after this one here too. But this just lets you be able to chuck those compact ammo bolts downrange even already faster than you already are with a Winfield. And it lets you it is such a phenomenal perk. Moving on to my fourth S tier choice is Pack Mule. This trait, honestly, I am pretty sure that it's better than Doctor in almost every situation because it's just a very strong perk. It lets you get 2 consumables or tools back when you loot, and it is so strong. And if you are able to combine this with either Frontiersman, which I'll get to why that's in B tier for me, or Doctor, you have an absolutely insane amount of healing, and it is amazing. It also is very good for trap builds, and it has saved, definitely, it has saved me so many times. Is getting that extra dynamite bundle or that extra frag bomb has definitely won me more games than being able to heal, uh, 100 health with Doctor. Physician is also in S tier because of the fact that it lets you be able to heal faster. That's kind of self-explanatory. It's always good, especially if you're playing a shotgun. You run in, you shoot a guy or two, you down them, and then the other guy's like out to the compound. You got hit, so you have to heal up. Always good. Gator Legs S tier perk. It is so amazing because I know for a fact that my life has been saved several times because of being able just to run fast in water and not getting bogged down because of a sniper, which I don't think I have any clips of that, but it has definitely saved my life once or twice, and it also gives you a lot more mobility, especially on oh boy, what is it? The one with what I forget what it's called. It's not Lost in Delta, but the one with Blanchett Graves and Lock Bay Docks, that one. Jeez, I don't know why I'm forgetting that off the top of my head. It is also like pretty early on in the morning that I'm recording this. Uh, Another choice, Bolt Thar. Obviously, if you're not using a crossbow, this is completely useless. But if you are playing crossbow, And this is basically your first pick that you're going to want to take if you come out with some trait points from a game. Very strong. Determination, another amazing one. I just love this one. It's definitely better than Greyhound, which I'll explain more of that when I get to Greyhound. But it's just the fact that you get to regenerate your stamina faster, which definitely can help you save medkits because of zombies attacking you, right? And it also makes it so you can sprint. Your stamina that you lose from sprinting recovers faster, so it lets you sprint even longer. So, and that combined with Greyhound is very strong. Um, Moving on, Doctor, an absolutely amazing perk, but I just feel that other perks combined are cheaper and honestly do about the exact same job. Sure, Doctor is a little bit. It does, give you a more of a safety net than let's say just taking Pack Mule because obviously Pack Mule you need to be able to loot to get your med kits back. But very strong, definitely an amazing perk. Okay, last one is Serpent. I'm pretty sure this is Serpent. It should be. If it's not, I don't care. This is the Serpent one. So I think that Serpent is a very underrated trait. It is 4 points, but there have been so many games that I can see the bounty token, inside the compound, and I'm like, shit. If only I had Serpent, I could grab that, and it could have, and it can really turn. Getting those dark side charges can definitely change the tide of a battle or your fight. And I can say that it has done that for me several times. I also like the fact that this is very strong if you're playing solo or just anyone, and there's that meathead on the clue. Sure, people now often blow them up for a trait, right? But if you don't want to make that noise, great perk. It can really change the tide of the battle. Sure, it's not always going to come into play, but I do think that it's probably an S tier choice, even if I don't often take it currently. But I definitely think that it's an underrated perk. But I would probably, honestly, it doesn't. It's kind of an in between S and A tier, in my opinion. It doesn't exactly fit in either. But but you could also, I could see an argument for putting that in B tier, just because of the fact that it's so situational. But then again, this is my own opinion. Moving on to A tier, we're going to start off with the good old fanning. I used to actually hate fanning, and I thought it was one of the worst perks in the game when I first got into the game, because there is if you're good enough at the game, you're not going to need fanning, honestly, because you're going to be able to hit your shots. And fanning, while it's definitely strong, and I recommend taking it, especially if you're a newer player who struggles with hitting your shots, I do think that this is kind of an overrated trait, but it is definitely very strong and definitely belongs here in the A tier. Following that is Bulwark, and I really did not know where to put this one. Honestly, I think I'm going to reconsider. I'm going to put this one in B tier. Yeah. Moving on to Quartermaster. Very strong, very not always needed for every build, though. I do think that it's very strong if you are. For a lot of them, though, it can really diversify your loadout, which is always a very good thing. One of my favorite Quartermaster loadouts is Officer Carbine with Nagant Officer pair, very strong, or with the Lamat pair, also very good. I also do recently I've encountered one of my new favorite probably Quartermaster loadouts, and that is Spark Sniper with Winfield Vandal Striker, or with the Deadeye variant of the Vandal. It really, with that Spark Sniper and Vandal Striker loadout, which I lean more on the Striker than I do on the Deadeye, just because of the fact that I don't really think that a Winfield with a Deadeye is very useful, to be honest. But the Spark Sniper, gives you that very long range potential. And then the Vandal, if you have Iron Repeater and Levering, can just really, it dominates that mid-tier range and that close tier range with Levering, letting you cover pretty much every range in the game. And I do think that it's a very strong loadout. It is a little bit reliant on your teammates though, being able to, just keep them off you, I do think, but very strong. Third is Resilience. Necromancer is also here. It's not on this tier list, but it should be. Resilience and Necromancer, very strong. Uh, Especially Necromancer is very strong if you have a big bar as your first, because you don't have to use a med kit to pick up your, have to use that med kit. And Resilience paired with that is very strong. I also think that Resilience is also just a very strong perk without it, because you can be picked up at 100 health, which that's going to save you a med kit, and it's also going to save you, um, it could save your life when you get picked up, because if you get shot, from range by a majority of the most compact ammo, you're gonna be alive. And if you get hit by a Winfield or an officer carbine, from a decent away, it's probably gonna save your life. Pitcher fault is probably my is on here, because while pitcher is expensive, it is so nice being able to chuck that dynamite, from like the bottom of Fort Carmick, like to the top. Basically, it's always fun to do that. I don't know if you can actually hit the top, but it's definitely pretty close. And I do know that pitcher has saved my life, because I was able to throw a dynamite stick literally on someone's head and it blew up on them, which is pretty cool. My last A tier is going to be Ghoul. Now, Ghoul did get a rework recently, which lets you, when you kill a zombie or a grunt, you get 5 hit points back, and that's very good. I think it's very strong. It is 7 points. I haven't really messed around with it much, so I could see it being in B or S tier. Uh, Seeing on how I don't have much experience with the trait yet, but very strong definitely very strong on paper. Don't know how good it is in reality, but definitely very strong. Moving on to B tier, which is my comfort picks. We got Bullet Grabber. This is a must if you are running a Label or a Dolt, in my opinion. Just because with the Label, you have so little spare ammo that you're going to need that extra bullet. And with the Dolt, it really helps out, because you're going to be needing special ammo. It's not as much of a need as it is for the Label, but it's definitely very strong if you're running adults. Following that is Greyhound. I honestly think that this perk is pretty bad. It's honestly worse than Determination in almost every way, because if you do the math, Determination lets you run longer than Greyhound. And sure, both of them combined are very strong. But Determination not only lets you regen your stamina faster, but it lets you have to take a shorter break before running again. And that means that this is just worse than Determination. While it is good, Determination is always better, and you also are going to get an extra point out of this, which can let you take something like Kite Skin, which is just so happens to be the next trait. Which this trait I could see moving it into C tier, just because it's so situational. But I can definitely say that it can save you. It has definitely saved me med kits and people I play with med kits, just from taking 50% less fall damage, and how strong that is. My next one is Poacher. Definitely pretty controversial. Just because it's really an uncommon to see people take this, but I do think that it's pretty good. Gunsmack has recently in some of his videos been talking about combat traps, and I definitely agree with his assessment that they are very strong, and this lets you put them down silently without your opponent, knowing, and it can help them. It can make them run into it, and then you can spring that trap on them and kill them. Definitely very strong trait. I recommend you go check out Gunsmack. He's a very good hunt YouTuber. Next is Vulture. This is a must if you are in a trio, because it lets everyone loot, and it's just very strong, because you can get those consumables back, especially if you have pack mule. Very strong. Bloodless. This is kind of in between C and B tier. It's like 4 or 5 points, and honestly, it just does not seem that useful to me, but it can definitely save you med kits, and it can also save your life too, because of that reduced bleed. The next one is Steady Aim. This trait is pretty good. It's also pretty shit. Uh, I don't think it's that worth it typically, and I would never honestly take this, not even on a Spark Sniper loadout or any scoped loadout, but I put it in here because a lot of people do like running it with a sniper. Okay, I'm gonna move Tomahawk here to the end because that is a whole can of worms. Next is Frontiersman. This is very controversial, but while I do think it is a very, very, very strong perk, I think that just pack mule outdoes it because you can get these consumables that you're using just back faster. And it's very strong, don't get me wrong, that extra med kit and that, extra fuse or extra throwing knife can be very handy. But it just most of the time it just doesn't seem like it's really worth it to me. Definitely very strong though, do not get me wrong. I could see a strong argument for being an A or S tier, and most people would probably put it up here, but you know, in my own experience, it just does not seem that useful. Bulwark, I had moved it down from A tier, and this thing's only really useful against dynamite, which most people bring frag bombs still, uh, which completely nullifies it, and it's only really useful against a freaking bomb lance. It'll prevent you from getting one hit by that bomb lance harpoon, which is very strong and it basically makes the bomb lance almost useless, but against players, but definitely a pretty good perk. Tomahawk. I know this is controversial, but I think that this is one of the better perks in the game. Definitely probably the best 1 point if Kite Skin isn't the best for 1 point trait. But it basically gives you a shotgun on any loadout. Because if you pick up that axe, you pick up the hammer, you pick up that pitchfork, and you just throw it and you can land that shot, which it is hard, it's a one tap at most ranges. Well, not most, but it's going to be a one tap most of the time that you hit them. And I think that this is just such a strong loadout on a Sparks uppercut loadout, something that does not have good close range capabilities, just because you basically get a shotgun on your character for 1 point. And sure, you have to be able to find those in-game weapons, but they're not hard to find. So that's going to conclude my B tier uh, list of the traits, and I'll be moving on to C tier. Okay, so moving on to C tier here. All these are pretty ass, following D tier too, but these ones are just the ones that are marginally better than the D tier. So we got Adrenaline. Honestly, this one's pretty garbage, and I would probably honestly say it's more in D tier, but I put it in here just because it can be handy. I don't think it's actually ever saved my life, but it's kind of good, being able to regenerate your stamina when you're at low health. Beast Face, this one is absolutely terrible. I don't understand why anyone even takes this anymore. If you're a good player, you're not going to be triggering these crows anyways. So it just, if you don't know, it just prevents you from. It gives you basically uh, more flexibility in your movement around crows and ducks. It's good for new players. More experienced players, this is terrible for you. Don't ever take this. Um, Conduit, pretty ass. It's 4 points. It's kind of good with Serpent. Not worth it though. Don't take it. Dauntless. This one I could definitely actually put in maybe B tier, just because you can defuse stuff like a frag bomb that could, wipe out your team. But it's just so situational, and most of the time you're gonna forget you have Dauntless and you're just gonna run away from it. But the next one here is Mithridates. This one is like honestly one of the most useless perks in the game. Because people, even though they did nerf the antidote shot, people are still bringing them, and I just don't really see you taking this perk unless you're like near level 50, and you don't really have any other things to spend your points on. Self skin, pretty terrible. It doesn't do enough. It should be like more like 33%. Uh, damage that you take from burning, but it doesn't do that, so it's pretty garbage. that's going to conclude for C tier. These trades are honestly all bad except for maybe Dauntless. But you don't even get me started on this D tier stuff here. It is definitely going to be interesting these next few trades here and how much I nail into them. So D tier. First off, we got Silent Killer, one of the worst perks in the entire game. Just like all of these, they're all really bad. So this one lets you be able to attack silently. I could see a justification for this for an all melee loadout. 99.9% of the time you are not going to be using that. It's 5 points, and you might as well just spend the extra $40 on throwing knives because they do the exact same thing. This one just costs 5 points, and the throwing knives cost $40. If you ask me, those 5 trait points are much better spent on something like honestly, like any other combination of perks is probably better than the 5 points you spend here. Iron Devastator, only useful on the Spectre. You shouldn't even be using the Spectre you should not ADS with a Spectre. That's just stupid. It's a shotgun. Steady Hand, only useful for the Nagant Precision Deadeye. Uh, this one's terrible. Uh, it's bad. Don't use it. Vigilant, this is pretty bad. It highlights traps and dark sight. If you unless you have like a vision impairment, this is completely useless for you. You have eyes for a reason. Bolt Seer, terrible. Don't take this. It highlights your bolts from your crossbows. This is useless. Don't ever take this. Steady Hands on here again. Well, it shouldn't be. Just gonna skip that. Hornskin, pretty bad. 25 or 33% damage reduction for blunt attacks. Only useful if you've been playing the game for under 5 hours, probably. And now to the Marksman, Sniper, and Deadeye Scopesmith traits. These ones are absolutely terrible. Never take them. They are absolutely terrible. There's no reason that you need any of these because they let you stay in sight. When you're aiming with your rifle that Issamine has multiple shots, it lets you stay in your sniper HUD while you reload basically or cycle the bolt, and that is just it's not worth it because after you fire a shot, you want to be able to clear your vision to make sure that there's no one around you who's been sneaking up on you. Especially they're just not good, and they're several points each. Pretty much anything else is going to be way better than this, and just never take these. Anything that's in D tier, never take it seriously. And C tier, I wouldn't take any of these really either. B tier, these are all pretty good. I recommend taking them if you have extra points or you're running a loadout that could use them. A tier, always take these if you can, except for Quartermaster, because obviously you don't need Quartermaster for everything. And then S tier, these should always be your first picks. I hope you guys all enjoyed my tier list, and I hope that this does well on YouTube. I hope you guys all like the video, share, subscribe. It means the world to me. Make sure if you have any disagreements with this to comment down below. Again, I do know that where I put Frontiers in is pretty controversial, and maybe some of these other ones that are in B tier and A tier, but that's just my opinion. I hope you guys all enjoyed, and I will have new hunt videos coming soon.